Hello everyone and welcome to our final talk for Galaxy Game Fest. I feel very lucky to be able to reintroduce Luke to finish us off today. Thank you so much.
All right, away I go. Listening and prepared to answer all the time. Game career opportunities are rare, they're highly sought after, and they're regularly missed in the din of regular life. So how can someone who wants to break into the games industry, or any industry for that matter, prepare themselves and improve their chances for success? And while there are no certainties here, I can share my experiences of both sides of the process as an applicant and as a hiring manager, and hopefully provide you some insights into getting a job in games. So, apologies if you've seen this before. This came straight out of my talks this morning, but it's a great slide, so I loved it to do the talking for me about Valorant. A little bit about myself. I work at Riot Games. I am in the Sydney office in Australia. It's in Sydney, just in case you missed that for a couple of times. I work as a staff engineer, which means I build the systems that run our game. And in particular, I work in the core game area, which is responsible for our agents and abilities that you see here. Now, so this morning's talk focused on the 8 years from when I graduated to when I actually got into games. And since then, though, I've spent 15 years in AAA games working on franchises such as Halo and Destiny and World of Tanks and now Valorant. And it's been very rewarding. But across this very wide streams of work, I've done numerous types of engineering, from tooling, networking, performance, security, services, infrastructure, gameplay, and prototyping. And that was a big, long breath. But I was also a games engineering lead for about 5 years, where I did a lot of hiring processes. And even now that I've gone back to being an individual contributor, I actually participate a lot in the internship program that we ran at Wargaming and we now run at Riot. So, my previous talk was about my journey, and this one's going to focus on the deliberate, planned approach to getting a job. And there's definitely common themes between our two talks, but this one's going to focus on them from a different point of view. And it starts with the self-awareness and knowing your role. Knowing what you want to do, knowing what you can do, and all the things necessary for you to get a job. The next part is being prepared for the process of getting a job, and I don't mean actually building your skills. I mean the actual skills of passing an interview or passing a coding test, or even finding one. Which is the last part, which is discovery, which is finding what's out there, and more importantly, finding it in a timely fashion. And we should be done at that point. If this was a regular industry with a lot of ways into it, we would be done. But we're not. This is games, this is highly competitive, it is highly sought after, and you should expect failure to be part of this process. Which brings us to the last 2 points that I'm going to go into, which is about being flexible and about the perseverance. Because success is very far from guaranteed, and honestly, it is the norm to fail multiple times before one gets into games. Now, before I get into the details, remember, these are my opinions, and these are from my experience. They're going to be heavily slanted to what the engineering experience is. I will try to make it general for the other disciplines and things that I do have overlap with, but each recruitment case is very different. Between companies, between disciplines, even between the same role with a few years apart, they change. So the information is current as of right now, and then it expires. So, know your role. What do you want to do? It's really that simple. What do you actually want to do? It's easier said than done. I spent 8 years figuring out what I wanted to do. It wasn't straightforward. But honestly, knowing what you want to do, what you're capable of doing, and having the passion, desire, or engagement to do either of these things is really important. You may find that you really want to do art until someone sits you down and makes you draw 24 frames per second of animation. That might actually kill your mental health. But you did know something and you found out more. Knowing yourself and knowing what you want to do is very important. Then the second part of this, what can you do? It does not matter what you want to do if the question is, can you? I would like for someone to pay for me to lie on a beach, drink cool drinks, and, mull about the universe and think up cool game ideas. It's not a practical experience. It's not something that's going to happen. It's not a job that exists. If it is, tell me, please. But knowing about potential careers may even feed back into what you want to do. If you don't know it's possible, you may not even know that you could do it. You may not even know that this particular realm of engineering exists. AI engineering didn't exist until 12 months ago, and you might really like that. Staying up to date, knowing what's out there, could very much affect what you want to do, and can you do it. And assuming you've got both those things, that they exist in the world, you can probably find them on game sites and whatnot, you need to start to prepare. So in being prepared, and you want to be prepared, because when opportunity knocks, you really want to put your best foot forward and increase your chances. Because being prepared is a holistic effort. It's not just writing a resume. It's making sure you're ready for the job, being practiced at the process of getting a job, and you're capable of showing your own self-worth that hopefully you've figured out when you know what you want to do. It's worth noting that the highly competitive nature of entry-level recruiting process is built around reducing the candidate pool. It's a little impersonal, but it's important to know. For instance, the program at Riot, we just ran it, there was over 1,000 applicants. Over 1,000 applicants has to eventually come down to 4. And so the early pages of any recruitment process is more about passing a gate. It's more about showing that you are capable and showing you can do it before you need to shine. So my advice here is to focus on the competency. Focus on being able to do the job that you're applying for, that you know you can do and you know that you can do. So, solid resume and cover letters. Note the plurals, really important. Those S's are highlighted for a reason. You should have multiple. You should have one for every role you apply for, or actually, a cover letter and a resume. This is because each job description is different and they need to tick off a number of requirements. That's what they're there for. The resume is to tick off your skills and your cover letter is to basically cover any gaps in there. You want to make it easy for your reviewer to pass you on the state, to pass you to the next gate. And it's true, recruiters and engineering managers have minutes to look at your resume. That's it. It really is not long, especially on this first pass when we're at the very fat end of the pipe. It's not a lot of time, so make it easy. And there's really 2 ways to make it easy. Be a strong candidate. Tick every box in the job description and have something that says that you can go above and beyond. And that will instantly say, oh, strong, yes, we definitely want to put this person next one, and they will move on. If you make that easy and you remove doubt from that process, it's very easy to go on. The other way to make it easy for a hiring manager is to not tick a box. If you can't answer something in a job description, it's very easy for someone when they have 400 resumes in front of them to say no, because they have to. There's no way they get through this process without it. And so what are these boxes that I'm really talking about? They're in the job description. There are a line in the job description that says, for this job, you need to know Unreal. You need to program in C++. You need to be a good communicator. All these ticks are things you have to tick off. So your resume needs to have on it, in as big as text as you can say, probably at the top of your skills section, Unreal, C++. And the communicator part, don't have spelling mistakes. It's pretty straightforward. If I can go to a resume and see C++, Unreal, great. I go to a resume and I see Unity and I see C#, and I'm going, oh, okay, not what I'm expecting. I go to a cover letter and this person tells me I'm a very passionate programmer. I work mainly in Unity and C#. This cover letter is helping me answer the gaps. I see that you don't have the tick boxes I want, but being very familiar and very strong in another engine is probably enough for me to also say yes. And this is where the cover letter comes in. It can address any gaps or address any strengths you have and pass through these first gates when it is a very large number more easily. Now, strong fundamental skills. I would think this is a given, but I don't think I can overstate this enough. Your resume has ticked all the boxes, but are your skills really where they need to be? I want to attack this from 2 fronts. So the first one is, when you're applying for a job and you see a job description you don't meet, there is 2 tendencies. One is to just say, I don't meet one of these requirements, I'm not going to apply. That's probably not the right response. You probably are capable enough to do that job. If you only miss one of those requirements by a year or a little bit of time, you should put yourself forward. Minorities often don't, and this is telling. It's hard for the process if you don't put it forward. So be careful about evaluating your skills too low. Understand where your skills are at and understand that you can put them forward. There's no cost in applying slightly above your role. The inverse is if you only tick one of the boxes and you apply anyway. Stop wasting my time. Apply for jobs that you think you're actually suited for. Know your role, know what you can do. You're attempting to enter a competitive industry. A little bit of programming is not going to cut it if you're applying for a programming role. Know this. The reason is because there are programmers. There are people who have dedicated their life to the art of programming who you're competing against. It doesn't mean you shouldn't apply if you're not the best. It means you need to show your competency. It means you need to show that you can meet the job description. I don't need a senior level engineer to do an entry level position. I need someone who can show me they can do the entry level position, and that will get them through. And that's why I said these about being gates. You need to show your competency. You should also practice the process. It's not great. It's not perfect. There's no way for a hiring manager to hold up two people and say, this one is better than that one. No matter how much testing we do, we're still not going to get it. But it is a useful way to reduce the pool down to a point where we can make a sensible decision, which is why we have coding tests. They are a way to evaluate basic knowledge, and that's all they do. They're not a good indicator of talent, but they do show that you have a basic understanding of how to program. They're very easy to mess up, so practice a lot. Once you've practiced, you can pass it, because that's all it is. It's a gate to let you on to the next stage. And the same goes for the technical interview that you'll pass a little bit longer. It's basic knowledge. I don't need you to tell me you've written a new algorithm that will help computer science. You just need to know the basics, and more importantly, communicate them to me. Fundamental skill is in any industry is the ability to communicate with your peers and talk. The ability to tell someone about your program and the decisions you made in clear language that they understand is as important in the cooperative environment as being able to program it, maybe even more so. Once we go to scale, especially at Riot and especially at AAA games, it gets more and more important to effectively communicate. And that's what that last interview is saying. I'm less worried about someone who forgets the exact reason or exact performance capability of an algorithm if they can explain to me why it works this way and why it's better. Because that communication, the understanding of the fundamentals is very important. And I've added this morning and I want to talk about it a bit. I often hear a lot from younger people that they are a generalist. And it's something I want to highlight because I often hear them describe themselves this. And I want to latch on the fact that there's nothing wrong with this, but it is a two-edged sword. Being a generalist is a strength. I am one myself. It's very helpful in my role to have a very wide scope and be able to pull in experiences from a lot of different disciplines. You saw all those streams of work I did to solve my problems. I'm not limited to one specialization to solve things. I'm specialized in many. But even if I'm a generalist, I have to do the job. The base expectation, the base competency for what I is, which is to program, I have to be able to do that. Once I can, now being a generalist is a strength. And you need to be able to do the job. Once you're going through this pipeline, again, I'm hammering this hard, but you have to be able to do that job. So once you've got the fundamentals, then you might be compared. And this is when you can shine. And these are the steps above when your generalist knowledge will help. This is when your knowledge of shaders will make you a better programmer if you're going to be embedded close to art, or some design experience, or some QA or audio, or whatever. These are bonuses, but they can only be on top of the job. It's very important as a specialist as well. The flip side of this is you are very narrow in your scope. If the job requires you to not be narrow, then you might not be suitable for it. It may be worth to expand your knowledge a bit. And why generalism is a weakness is at some point you might be compared. And the hiring manager will be making a decision based on their future needs. And this may not be in the job description. This is where it gets very hard. When two resumes come to me and I'm looking at what I need for this role, it's very hard for me to make the choice because they're both competent. I know that both these people can do the job, but I will have some knowledge about the future and I will choose one. And what I've actually done is someone is not going to get a job that they could have done. And that's heartbreaking for them and a bit heartbreaking for me. Like there's so many candidates out there and it's hard. But you need to actually wear that on the chin. And we'll get to that in a little while. And this happened again. No. There we go. Portfolio is a really valuable tool. I'm not going to talk much about this. I've told in my previous talk, it got me jobs. It was a distinguishing factor. Remember, base fundamentals, I could do the job, and then I could show I could make a game. That's really what the portfolio does. It shows you can make a game. It's not going to get you a job. It's going to be very hard to pull you out of the candidate pool of 1,000 and get you that job. But when it comes to comparison, it could be the distinguishing factor. It has been for me in the past, and it's something to think about. So make sure it's playable, make sure it's good work, make sure you're proud of it. You're not just throwing up a screenshot of something you've done, you're trying to show your best work because you're trying to use this as an edge against your peers. Now, discovery. Up to this point in time, I've been focusing on you, the candidate. What can you do? What do you need to know about yourself for this process? Well, now it's time to focus on the job. We asked already exists. Does it exist? Will it exist? It might be a future job. Who knows? Who is even offering this job? Because that's an interesting part. And one of the first things you do is, how do I even find out? Where do you even go for this information? And it's the companies. You know this. You know the people who make your games. Their marketing brand is all over every game you launch. You can't ignore it, but you have. You filter that screen out. Every time you launch that game, you don't even know who makes it anymore. Those companies often will have online presence. They will have networking presence. They will have things. And they will talk about themselves, and they will have job pages. And those job pages will describe the types of people they employ. You can go to other offices. You can go and check out the Riot page for Shanghai and see what kind of roles they are. They might not be in Sydney, but they might give you an idea of what is out there in the world. You're not necessarily bound to this city, so why not find out? And the other thing that companies do that is very important to find out is their company values. Sophia talked about this before. It's important that you align with your company's values because it's hard to change your own. And it is part of Riot's interviewing process. These are our values. I'm not going to go into details because you know what? There's a career page up there that does it better for me, and it's going to flex your muscle of researching a company that you're interested in to finding out what they care about. These values are all throughout our interview process. They're not necessarily told explicitly, but your questions and your answers and knowing that we value this, developers at Riot, you need to frame your things about being player first, about cooperating in one Riot. But go read them. They're interesting if you're interested in Riot. Okay, so ideal world, we're done. You got a job, your career goes ahead, you retire, wonderful, great. Doesn't work that way. I'm a strong believer that anyone can be anything they want to be, but I'm also a realist in to know that the reality is barely anyone gets to do that. To be exactly what they want, especially when they want to be it. So many people are rightly so in their youth and their vibrancy, they want to be creative directors and basically plan the next great game that will affect a thing. It's not feasible. You can go and do that on your own, but it comes with all the risks that are inherent there. And to survive this process, to survive any process where you are competing with other people, you have to accept loss. I remember seeing a stat recently that was fascinating, which was that professional tennis players, you know, the #1 tennis players in the world, they only win 52% of the points they play. So almost half the time they walk down the court, they're losing. Half the time, they're failing constantly. And the thing which distinguishes them in this fierce competition is the ability to get back up and to try again, which is what we're going here. Flexibility and perseverance. Now, flexibility is the first part, which is understand what else you might want to do. Well, understand that life may not be perfect, to understand that there are other options out there that will help you along your way to maybe get to a closer state or even land that perfect job eventually and be that one lucky person who gets to live the dream. And the obvious ways to do that is adjacent careers. Now, my journey into games was longer than most. It's long, I don't recommend it. It's not uncommon. So we had a visit from the Riot Games engineering team of Core Games. So we had 8 engineers in a circle of everyone who drives Valorant's gameplay. I think 2 out of 8 actually started in games at the start. Most of them came in from adjacent. They cut their chops in other industries, learning how to program, learning the processes, not in games. They were often very close adjacent. They were working in things that used Unreal, like imaging for architecture. Or actually biomedical imaging was another one who had direct experience in 3D software. This gave them a lot of domain knowledge on very specific skills that we were interested in, and that translated perfectly. The other thing that they often would know is they know software. They are software developers by trade. They know our processes, they know our tools, they know how to build software. They will bring a new perspective. This is actually interesting to know. I love having an engineering manager alongside me who's fascinated with documentation because I'm completely anti-documentation. Somewhere in the middle of this spectrum is a good way forward, but it's a new perspective on things. And I like that input. And we can't underestimate that value of having diverse people in the industry. So pulling people in from adjacent careers, they are skilled, they meet the bar. Remember, we're still about this. They can do the job. And then they bring in a generalist knowledge of how it's done in other industries and how other ways they can work. Now, adjacent disciplines is a slightly more contentious target because there is an opinion that it seems insincere to go into a career that you're not committed to. I take a far more pragmatic view, which is no one knows exactly what they want to do for any long period of time. As long as you are serious about the craft, they are an excellent opportunity. As long as you are serious about starting in QA, or starting in a low-level engineering, or starting in service engineering, or something far away from where you may want to be, like tech art or whatever. As long as you are serious about your craft and you are there to do the job, and again, you meet the bar to do that job, your additional interests and skills are icing on this cake. And they will give you one of the most valuable pieces of experience, which is production experience shipping a game. Tools, processes, the quality of life, contact with engineers, contact with artists, contact with designers. Everything about making games is there. But you must be serious about the craft and serious about the role you're in right now, and you must apply yourself to it. And you never know. I'm serious about wanting to change. I know a lot of QA people who may have had design aspirations at one point, but they really got into that and they really liked their craft and they're serious about it, and they are now directors of QA in major studios. And the last one is perseverance, which I find really hard to talk about. And it's at the end because I was putting it off for so long. It probably helped to talk about before this slide or whatever, but I put it off. But I'm going to grit my teeth and do it, but I'm not going to talk long. I'm not going to talk about how you develop perseverance. I'm not going to talk much about it all. You know what, I'm almost going to go cute now, but I want to leave with you because you just got to know the perseverance required. How you build it is up to you. How you approach problems and how you get back on your feet when you have faced adversity is something you will need to figure out for yourself. The one thing I will say on the matter is there are a lot of options and they're not all equal. They're not all around right now. They might be in the future. They may have been in the past. Their options are changing as fast as the world is changing, as much as you are changing within it. And each of these options is an opportunity. Each one is a chance for you to do something that you might enjoy or something that might help you grow into something you enjoy. And the part about this is if it's an opportunity, you should be prepared for it. You should know about it if you can. You should be thinking about it and you should take it, the chance, if you can. Maybe you don't. Maybe you can't take it. Maybe you don't want to take it. Maybe you actually are happy where you are. But there are a lot of options and there are a lot of opportunities. So be prepared. Keep exploring those horizons because this is how we discover these options and these opportunities. And maybe next time it will be you knocking on opportunity's door. So thank you. Any questions? Yes. I find that game engines move too fast, so I find anything you've written down is rarely a source of truth, whereas the code itself and the content itself is the source of truth. So I believe in documenting that and making sure that is understandable as opposed to trying to write a document that will capture something that changes every 2 weeks. Readable code. Yeah. If you don't comment your code, you will not pass my technical review. Just what's going on. Yeah. I would love it to be that simple, but it's way bigger than that. And documentation has a place, which is why I like this pullback, because there are things you can't document. A proper AAA game has a full spectrum between services, code, content to player experience driven by a config file. You can't read all that code. You probably don't even have access to it, all of that in the repository. It is very hard to add a document to a comment to a single number as to why it is that single number. Why is it 0.1 here? Documentation can solve that, but keeping it up to date, well, that's a problem unto itself. Like I said, having that spectrum, having that wide range of opinions and having those wide drivers will hopefully get you a solution in the middle. Anyone else? There we go.
You mentioned the needing to have that self-assessment. Any recommendations for how to do that? You have gatekeeping processes that you're talking about, but in first presenting yourself, how do you quantify?
Yeah, excellent question. You can't. Yeah. Remember I said to hiring managers cannot actually evaluate who is better? You can't. I like to know what I'm capable of, which means I like to know what my end product is. So one of the things when I have done game jams and I've built systems and I've built things is like, do they work? So I've built A-star algorithms. You know what? I know they work because it actually happened in game. I don't know if mine is great. I don't care about its performance or benchmark or whatnot, but I can do it. And this is what I mean about trying to hit those benchmarks. And how do you know? Well, there is practice questions. You go on HackerRank. Can you do the practice question? It's more about learning HackerRank's particular little nuances about how you solve it. But if you can do it and you can pass that practice question, then you have some confidence that you can do that, have that skill. If we're talking about C++, it's really hard. It is very hard to identify if someone wrote a function, what level they are in an industry. But did it work? Can you do it? Can you describe it? These are the things that you should think about when you're trying to evaluate, am I... And actually, job descriptions won't ask that. They'll ask for years of experience, and that's a little bit awkward. But if they might just say Unreal, are you confident in Unreal? Are your peers confident in Unreal? Do you sit down with someone and realize that you know more than them? That might be a good confidence boost, but it is hard. It's not a thing you can put a number on easily.
Yeah, I think the point you made about like not underselling yourself is important. But then you also have.
Yeah, the opposite part of the problem is like, here we go, I'll say it, I didn't get to say it, I forgot to. Don't lie on your resume. There's no point. It will not come out in any large scale. And if it does, you're just delaying the inevitable where people figure out that you're not actually as capable as you want. It will not end well. This is effectively what that is when you're overselling yourself. But I said those in the order I want to because I want you to encourage you to apply, because I don't get a diversity of applicants. I get a lot of people who are not applying because they don't have C++. It is not an absolute blocker. It's not the end of the world. Most of the things you're learning in university and whatnot, not having a piece of knowledge is not critical. It helps, but at one point, when I actually pick an engineer, I'm looking for someone who can learn, because there is very unlikely that you know anything about what I'm working on or my engine or anything. So I'm looking for someone who has some foundations, solid, fundamental CS programming algorithms, who I can then teach our game. Anything else? I've got people waiting. No? No? All right, what else you got for me? No, sounds like we're good. Let's do it.
Thank you